Hello everyone and welcome to CappingTV and the coverage of the Australian Overwatch Open Division Playoffs. We're into day 2. Unfortunately we didn't have any games earlier, but we are now back and have the upper bracket final between X69 Gaming and the Sandfraggers. I am Gio Phoenix and with me is Peronius and mate, we're in for one hell of a great series.
Absolutely. Very excited to see this one of the final hurdles for one of these teams. As they look to put themselves into the grand final. The other team, of course, as this is the winner's bracket, will get another chance to climb their way back to the grand final match by going through the loser's bracket grand finals. But that does mean an extra game for them to play today, which is not going to be great for their endurance, and it means they come into that grand final matchup at a disadvantage.
Yeah, as you mentioned, not only is the disadvantage of having to just play more series over the course of the day, but coming into the grand final, the team that makes it there from the upper side of the bracket will come in with a map in hand. So we definitely want that advantage going into the grand final. But this series right here between X69 and the Sandfraggers, what can we really say about it? I mean, X69 has had a pretty solid path through. Bit of a mishap here and there, especially in yesterday's series against Jim's Esports, but Sandfraggers seem to have had a much cleaner path to this point of the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. X69 actually picking up 2 back-to-back 3-2 wins yesterday, whereas Sandfraggers only really dropped a couple of maps early on, but have had fairly dominant performances so far. So while X69 came into the playoffs as the number 1 seed and thus the favourites, they are showing quite a few weaknesses which may be able to be exploited here by the Sandfraggers.
Yeah, and now we are getting into the first map. It is still the standard best of 5s, and we're going to be starting out on Nepal with the Sanctum being the first of the round. So interesting to see what's going to be brought out by both of these teams, whether or not we're going to see a lot of the same compositions that we saw yesterday, or if there's going to be some adaptations from yesterday's, using yesterday's play as ways to kind of short up some of those weaknesses as you were mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it looks like from the starting rollouts here, we're going to have the Sandfraggers on a Flying Goats here, whereas X69 are running a classic Orisa Torb here. This is going to be very interesting as we get into the early stages of this poke war.
Yeah, with a lot of the displacement, as we can see, the hook goes down onto Astro, tries to drag him off, but in the end they just straight up kill him before the rest of the team can really help out. So Sandfraggers having good positioning around the point, with X69 really putting themselves in a bit of a close quarter situation, but that's exactly what they want with this kind of composition. And now with the point available for contention, they're in a pretty good position, and they do end up securing it first for themselves. And now it's up to the Sandfraggers to try and make their way towards the point. But here comes a very early Transcendence, and that just secures this first fight for X69.
Absolutely, although I think it's actually the Sandfraggers that have capped this point, X69 being sent back to spawn, and we are actually going to have a pause here after that first fight as well. So Sandfraggers looking good in that early fight, able to turn it into a close quarters battle on the point, which is exactly what they want to do with this Flying Goats comp. And unfortunately, even though some great plays there, especially by Rune on the part of X69, able to get a few kills, first the crucial one onto Astro, and then a hook mid-fight onto Ike, not able to do enough to be able to bring this fight back. And as a result, ultimately, Sandfraggers do end up capping that first point.
Are you sure? I believe it is the blue side that is X69?
No, I'm positive that's Sandfraggers.
Sure? Because
Moe's on X69, I know that one quite well.
Well, anyway, we do have the red team moving in towards the point, as a lot of ultimates are going to start getting work out, as 2 blue members have already dropped and they're making their way towards this objective, and it's quite open at this stage because they are very much locked into that lower corridor, but that is where they want to be, as we saw with those close quarters doing it very nicely. But Rani is going to manage to take out Psycho before that David can be too much of an issue, and now Lemons for me does manage to pick off Noosh in return. But throughout all of this, it is still in favor of the blue side, as the fight is going to be really popping off. Ultimates being dropped left, right, and center for the red team, but they're not able to really get too much effort. There's a great boot, knocks Xeno right off the map, and another drag does end up pulling a stolen Picnic towards his death, but he's able to wall ride his way to safety.
Absolutely, and a really nice fight there, really well taken. There was a couple of early picks onto the side of the Sandfraggers that maybe created an opening in there, but they were able to keep the point alive long enough for reinforcements to make their way back, and as a result they win out that fight. We do need to see something from X69 here to turn the tide.
Alright, here comes the mech explosion. Only does manage to take down Astro, but it just kills left, right, and center as Noosh managed to really line up the kill feed, but it's not real. It's with the trading back and forward, the point is still in favor of the blue team, with no one really being able to make their way towards this objective.
Absolutely, and it looks like it's going to be very difficult to even get a touch on there. They do have one desperate last fight here, and here it comes.
Alright, here comes the fight. They do manage to get onto the point, but with the rest of the team, it's just not really there in time. And with Lemon trying to get anything on the point, they have to manage to get there. But with all of the displacement coming out from this blue team, they are just able to shove them all the way. And the crowd control onto Lemon just shoves them straight off the point, and that could very well just end it right there. And that is going to be the first round.
Absolutely,
sure
some really
blue team
nice.
Is X69.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure the blue team is X69. I'm just looking at the team list, and all of those blue teams are X69. Or am I just completely getting baited again?
Moe's on X69, isn't he? No, looks like... Okay, no, I do have them mixed up, you are right.
Yeah, that was that's okay. I was just getting completely confused about what was going on there, because you were very confident that
I was very confident. Unfortunately,
and
sometimes
I
I'm
trusted
very wrong
you.
as well.
I was trusting you with that, so I was looking at through the player's eyes, and it had the team name there, and I was like, is it another situation where it's the wrong way around? But it is X69 that does get that first round. Now that we've got that whole confusion set up, but here we coming into the second round. And Lemons for me is going to be on that May, very much specifically for this area, with this control point being much more close in, as you can see right there. They're using the ice wall to split apart that front line, and now they can just try and focus onto Astro, but does manage to stay alive, and this fight is going to continue. Just slapping away back and forward, but here comes another ice wall to split them apart again. Rune does manage to take down Stolen Picnic, and this May pick really working out incredibly well for the side of the Sandfraggers.
Absolutely, and this is exactly what they need after that first round. So early control of the point is going to be a huge advantage there, although the late kills coming through could see this one potentially traded back. There's a very early grab there coming out from Ike. That is going to allow them to secure this team fight, but it's not over just yet. Lemons for me putting a lot of trouble with these May walls, but they finally are going to get the clean up here.
Yeah, X69 finally able to get those ultimates to just clean up that fight, make sure that they can secure it, and really set up a defense for themselves. And now it's time for the Sandfraggers to try and make their way towards the point. They are still running with the same composition, not feeling as though they need to adjust anything just at this moment. The May has been doing some good things in this composition. They just have to manage to work it out a little bit better. Astro goes right in, gets an Earth Shatter onto several members, but with the counter engagement, they just damage left, right, and center, but no one has gone down just yet. And as I say that, Ike finally going to drop as a great Earth Shatter on so many members of X69, and they are going to be able to just roll through this fight right now.
Absolutely, really, really nicely played there. Huge shatter from Xeno is going to flip the point, and for the first time this round, Sandfraggers take control of the point, and they will be looking to set up their defense now. They're still on the May, so they do have that tool available to there as well. It's just going to make life very difficult for X69 pushing in.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that you want to be doing with that maze, and especially when on this kind of map, especially the map type, you want to be the one defending and forcing your opponents to overextend, so you can split them apart with the May that we've been seeing so well from Lemons for me here for the Sandfrags. And now coming into this next fight, they are split up a little bit on the offense, with the Zaya going around, and they are just going to go straight onto Ike, as got split off from the rest of the team and got completely annihilated, and now they're just going to go rushing straight towards the rest of this X69 lineup. They haven't been able to take anyone else just yet, as Xeno did end up dropping down. They managed to take down their counterpart in
That's a big grab.
Astro, and the Graviton Surge manages to pick up so many of the members, and with the May there to follow up, a lot of lockdown, and they really just cannot deal with that.
Absolutely, and this is now a very dangerous position to be in if you are X69, because looking at that, they've got the Blizzard online, they've got both their defensive supporting ultimates, and Xeno has another Earth Shatter as well. That is a lot to push into, considering they've only got 2 fights left before this point is over. They don't have a lot of opportunities here, and if the ultimates are well used, it's going to be very difficult to get control at this point.
Exactly, that's what we need to see from them. A good ultimate user. Oh, a bit of a miscommunication. The Earth Shatter goes out just as the wall goes up, so they are not going to be able to get anything out of that. A good Transcendence does manage to get used. There's a good Earth Shatter gets used from the side of Astra, but they're not able to follow up on it thanks to a good Blizzard just completely shutting everyone out. And also that Graviton did get used, but now they're starting to make the most of it as they're starting to roll through this Sandfraggers lineup. And even though they had all those ultimates, didn't really get all that much out of it.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the sound barrier overlapping with the Transcendence means they just weren't getting the mileage out of the support ultimates there. Combination of that with the miscommunications of the Shatter just failing to get anything done, and unfortunately X6 Gaming able to play into 5 ultimates and decisively win a team fight. That said, it is down to 1 fight territory. Whoever wins this fight is going to win the round.
That is very likely, as here they come in again. Here comes the rally up, and Earth Shatter gets dropped down and does set several members to the ground, and they are going to be making the most of that as Xeno is going to be the first one down, and with that in tow, they are just going to roll through some of the members of the Sandfraggers, but with little time left in the time bank for the side of the Sandfraggers. They need to make something happen, but X69 are just not letting it happen. They're just keeping them away from the point. Rune does manage to get there, and even using the Transcendence just to get the team onto the point, but it's going to be answered with the Transcendence of their own. But here comes a Blizzard that's going to get a decent amount of work. But is it going to be enough? Graviton surges left and right. Poe's managed to pick up a couple of kills for themselves. The Zed is really starting to light up that kill feed, but the Sandfraggers are starting to fall by the wayside. They just can't stand up to this beefy lineup. And this looks like it is just going to be X69 cleaning up the fight, cleaning up this round, and cleaning up this first map.
Absolutely, and really nicely played there. There was a couple of key kills in the mid part of that fight that looked like maybe, just maybe, the Sandfraggers could take back control, but that gets shut down hard, and as a result, we are going to have X69 going up 1-0 after this first map, putting themselves in a great position to get themselves through to the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. But now it is up to the Sandfraggers to determine which map we'll be going to next. It is the Escort discipline, so they have a choice between Dorado and Route 66. We've been seeing a lot more of the Dorado as of, or at least of the series that we saw yesterday. A little bit of Route 66 here and there, but Peronis, what are you thinking that
well, that's actually interesting to hear, because I was over on the second channel yesterday, and we actually overwhelmingly saw Route 66. That said, I was going to say, we did see a lot of teams that were running that quad DPS, however, so they were definitely favouring Route 66 for that reason. So I think it comes down to just the play styles of the teams. I think if you are a more GOATS-focused team, you want to take it to Dorado, whereas if you're running that quad DPS, you want to go to Route 66. And so given these two teams, I suppose it's not too surprising we are going to see it head over to Dorado.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting a lot of Route 66 from the series yesterday, but 2 series in a row, we ended up going to Dorado, and it's like, oh, all right, I guess this is just what these teams want to be playing, and yeah, yet again, we are going to be going there. And we saw very often that momentum plays a very big part in this map. Is that you can get rolling with a few good kills and able to maintain that momentum into several points, but should you get stalled out, it can be very hard to re-establish control.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just waiting to get this one going. There's a lot of different ways you can play Dorado. I mean, obviously the GOATS has been very dominant here, but there's a lot of very wide sightlines that can really be taken over by a good Widowmaker, especially on this first point, but also the second point there. So we'll have to see how these teams want to play this one, especially knowing that in these having a bit of an idea, I suppose, at this point, how these GOATS v GOATS matchups are going to go.
Yeah, and talking about those long sightlines, we saw a little bit of Farah coming out on this map previously, but it is going to be X69 on defense first, and they're just going to be running the good old traditional GOATs, and we'll have to see what the Sandfraggers are going to come at them with, because they do have the option of using that Sombra to kind of scout out what they're going to be up against, and then adjust accordingly if that's what they want to be doing. And we saw that a fair bit yesterday, just utilizing that Sombra as a scouting tool so they know exactly what they want to be dealing with.
Look at this early camp. All the members of X69 sitting in that first room. They have been spotted out by the recon arrow now, though, but I don't know if they know they've been scouted out. I think by now, though, they might have an idea, and they may be looking to get out of there before the trouble starts.
Yeah, we can see the changes over from the side of Sandfraggers, and they are going to be running with a rather, well, it's not necessarily the highest of DPS lineups, but much more than what we're used to seeing over the past month or so. Bringing over the Ashe and also the Pharaoh, bring a lot more range to this composition, trying not to get too close to the goats.
Absolutely, we've seen some really big plays in the last day and a bit from these Ashes, able to get that dynamite stick in there and do an awful lot of cleave damage over the team, so they're definitely going to be looking to do that one.
Yeah, and a very aggressive defense now that it is moving under that arch, but Rune able to pick up Poe at the start of this fight, really nicely done there, so that is some of the support out of the way, and now it's X69 on the defense. They have to pull back, just can't really deal with the amount of damage, and they can't really contest a lot of that long range, and we can see them losing another member, Ike, falling to the damage of Rune, who is doing a lot of work in the skies, especially with Mighty Boy helping him out with the Mercy. So really nice first point there from the Sandfraggers. I have to see potentially some kind of adaptation from the X69.
Absolutely, they're really getting bullied here right now. They're getting just pushed back and really poked apart by this long-range damage, and they need to find some sort of answer to that. Unfortunately, the dive composition, especially now we're into second, is able to take advantage of the high ground, but as I say, that Xeno going down early is going to see them go to the races here as they get aggressive. That is Moe taken down as well. Rune pulls out the barrage to take down Poe, but gets responded to in kind.
Yeah, it seems as though that might be a time to switch off unless they really just want to keep this one going. It seemed like that kind of ultimate is like, oh, okay, I'm just going to use this because I'm going to switch off, but no, Rune is looking to stick with the Pharaoh, and they finding that this composition has been working out reasonably well for them. Just a bit of an overextension from Zito ended up getting caught out, which allowed the rest of the composition to pretty much collapse at that point. And now we have to see how this one goes. Here comes the rally up, and a bit of an engagement, and here comes the explosion. Doesn't manage to take out Poe again at the start of a fight. That really do not want to see the Zenyatta going down at the very start of the fight. This is going to give a decent amount of room over to the Sandfraggers to push their way through, as X69 are pulling back towards the point. As the Earthshaker comes out, barely gets anything out of that, and here comes Bob, who's going to be a real nuisance here from the backline, as the Diva does go forward to try and put a little bit of pressure on the backline, but it doesn't really get too much out of it. Here comes the Transcendence just to help out on the defensive side of things, the Graviton as well, but not able to really get much done. But they do end up putting enough damage onto the members to force back this offense.
Absolutely, and just as we're cleaning up this fight, we do see the members of Sandfraggers slowly being forced back by X69 Gaming. They're not really pulling all the way back yet. They seem like they want to reassess, and Rune's still looking for an angle in the sky, trying to poke down these members. They do still have both their DPS alive, so they're not quite willing to back off yet.
Yeah, as they don't really have too many challenges to their positioning, they can just fire away from afar and really just make it very difficult for X69 to step forward at all. Here comes the barrage, and they're able to get rid of the mech right off the bat, but now Moe gets taken out, as so does Lemons for me. So a lot of tools out of the way from the Sandfraggers, but they still want to keep this fight going as they put a lot of effort into the bank, but they have to back away from that as a lot of the members compiling out of it. But throughout all of this payload hasn't really moved at all.
Yeah, Astro throwing down a shadow there, doesn't quite manage to catch anyone. Lemons for me taking a bit of a nap behind the cart, but not able to be capitalized on there. But with Xeno going down there, I think it's finally going to trigger the reset here from the Sandfraggers. That's a lot of time that's been bled off the top. A clock from these sustained fights, but they haven't really made much progress.
And that was one of the things I was talking about at the very start of this match. It's very momentum based. If you're able to keep the cart rolling and to keep the fights going in your favor, you can just go all the way through. But if something like this happens when you get stalled out, it can be very, very difficult. Here comes the rally up again. You see Xeno on the back line trying to be a big nuisance, trying to disrupt the positioning, and they do manage to take out Poe yet again. Rune, nice start to the fight, but the defensive matrix does interrupt Rune in his barrage attempts, and a Graviton comes through. They do manage to take out Xeno, and that should yet again cause another retreat for the Sandfraggers.
They're starting to run out of time here. That said, they are building their ultimates very quickly, as is sort of the nature when you're playing against a Goats comp. Late kill onto Psycho is a bit unfortunate, but he was out of mech, so this will be a chance to at least come back into the fight with the mech there. Now, looking at the ultimate wise, we do have a couple online, and there's the res actually on the Psycho. That's going to speed things up. We are going to see another Bob coming out into this fight, and they do have both support ultimates available as well. That said, both Poe and Sol and Picnic are coming up on their own ultimates, so a lot of ultimates online in this next fight, especially defensive ones.
Absolutely, the Valkyrie has been popped very early. Bob comes out, but a lot of good defensive play here from X69. Rune has been taken down immediately in the fight, and because of the resurrection going down onto the Diva earlier, they're not able to get the Pharah back into the fight, and it looks like X69 are putting up such a brick wall that the Sandfraggers having a bit of a trouble getting through, as they do manage to take down one of the members, but they are still trying to keep this payload moving. 30 seconds left on the clock, and the defense is still holding strong. They need to get Xeno back in the fight, as they do manage to get there. Another Graviton comes out from the Zaya.
Oh, this could be
becomes the
devastating.
explosion and takes down 3 members. Really nicely done there from Zooj, with Ike supporting there. And here comes Bob again, trying to clean up some of the remaining members. Able to clean them up, but the payload is still not able to be moved because a lot of the reinforcing defense came in just in time, and that is actually going to be round 1 completed.
Absolutely, and that was just really well played from X69 from the point of view that they've managed to capitalize on what they did do. They did at the start of that fight actually overlap their support ultimates, which left them vulnerable, and that's what caused the aggression to come through from the Sandfraggers. That's when they pushed in, but then they all just got grabbed up against a wall, and the self-destruct was there to just see them get absolutely deleted. So a really nice recovery there, good use of those ultimates to basically allow them to win the fight after basically giving up the advantage that they had before. So really nicely played by X69, and as a result, we are going to have that stalled at the end of point 2, which should make for a nice easy push through as long as they're able to build up that momentum.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very gettable target, but to be honest, it is also a rather defendable target. We've seen rounds of Dorado being ended up well before that, so it is possible for the Sandfraggers to hold on here and clinch this map, but it's going to take a bit of an effort because X69 have looked so good so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been, I mean, this is, to be fair, this is not the first time these teams have met. They did actually meet in round 10 of the qualifiers, and that ended up being a 3-0 in favour of X69. So Sandfraggers have a lot to prove in this game, and so far they haven't found what they're looking for in terms of an answer to X69.
Yeah, they've got a lot to really cover up in some of their deficiencies in the gameplay, but now they are on defense, going for a rather long-range team, utilizing the Ash and also the Hanzo, not going with the Pharah this time. But here comes Nuge onto the point, just dropping it there and manages to get out. We do have the engagement onto the top side, but Astro does get taken down because of all the long-range damage, while the rest of the team for X69 wasn't able to help out. They're just going to be training Winston's at the very start of this, but throughout all this, the payload has been kept moving. They're not able to really stop it here on the defense, so it's going to have to force a reaction out of the Sandfraggers. They can't just stay there and hope to force away X69 when they're just staying on that payload.
Absolutely, but Poe going down there early is definitely going to be an opportunity here, and we are going to be seeing them actually counterplays coming through as X69 go to the races. And those kills absolutely coming through. So despite the early loss of Poe, they managed to pull this one out, and they have just cleaned up. That'll be a point A cap.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was very, very quick and efficient. And now they have essentially 5.5 minutes to get towards that second checkpoint. And honestly, with how X69 has been playing, I'm finding it very hard to see how the Sandfraggers are going to be able to hold them on, because they have been favoring some of the non-GOAT styles. I mean, they are starting to change up here to a bit more of a durable lineup. They are going to be bringing in the Reaper to try and shred through some of those beefier members, but I don't know, is it a little bit too little too late?
Maybe. I mean, they obviously are feeling that it was a desperate change that's needed to make. They actually give up a Bob to be able to make the swap. So Lemons for me now starting fresh on the Reaper as the fight gets underway. But let's see if this ground-based goats comp can beat the flying goats of X69.
A good transcendence to negate a lot of what the Graviton was trying to do as the fight continues. As Xeno is going to be slapping away on the front line against Astro on the Winston, but Lemons for me getting taken down immediately, Poe getting onto the kill feed, and the rest of X69 just cleaning up this defense, and they really just can't stand up to the power of this X69 lineup as the Sandfraggers just essentially crumble, and now they have to essentially scramble to try and get to stall out this
Absolutely.
progress.
I don't even know if they can get there in time, but they do have Mighty Boy coming through, managing to get the touch on the Lucio.
Yeah, the explosion does come out, does manage to take out 2, and those are 2 of the tanks, and that should secure it because there's no one left to stand up to the might of X69, and they are going to very efficiently clean up the second map and go up 2-0.
Absolutely, and this is, I think, at this point, if you're on the Sandfraggers, you've really got to be worried. This is so far turning into a repeat of the last time these two teams have met, and they need to change something up if they're going to make the difference here. But the question is, what have they got in their wheelhouse that they can do to take down this team? It's not even as simple as killing Mui. They've been trying to bully this Zen. There's been so many fights where they have taken down Mui early, and X69 have just gone, that's alright, we don't need Discord Orb to kill you, and responded with a huge amount of kills back. So at this point, you've got to be asking, what can Sandfraggers do to shut down this top tier team?
That is going to be the big question as we come into the third map. We could be the last map of Sandfraggers' upper bracket experience, but we're going to the assault discipline, either Hanamura or Volskaya.
It looks like we will be actually heading over to Hanamura. So we've seen a lot of Hanamura here. I don't think any of the games that I was part of actually went to Volskaya. Did you see any?
I think there was one that did end up going to Volskaya, but just trying to remember. I think there was just one.
Yeah, certainly Hanamura has been the favourite so far, and I suppose that's not too surprising. Hanamura has been, for a while, the preferred map for a lot of these teams. It is a very strong map for goats, and it has a lot of snowball potential. So not too surprising that that continues to be the favourite. But at the same time, I worry that this is perhaps playing into X69's hands, and maybe trying to take them to Volskaya and running something different might have been their best bet.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, there is the possibility of that, essentially an epic stall at point B that can happen from time to time. Sometimes you take the first point and you have about 7 minutes in the bank, but then you just run into the brick wall that is Hanamura point B. But as you mentioned, sometimes it's just a complete snowball, and teams can essentially rack up upwards of 6 points over the course of a map. But we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, you were mentioning it, Goats Compositions, it's the name on everyone's lips, it's the name on everyone's minds when it comes to the current state of Overwatch, and essentially also around the ways in which teams are trying to deal with it. We've seen some of the, I guess, different styles that people have been theory crafting and running to try and deal with it. We saw it yesterday with essentially the 4 DPS. Do you think that could potentially be an option here? But like, it's going to be very hard even pushing through that first gate if you're running with such a light lineup.
I mean, that is true, but the 4 DPS comp has a lot of power at its disposal. It does rely on a high level of mechanical skill from the players. They need to be very good at being able to act independently, but also coming together to take down those kills. It is looking like what they're going to be running here, which makes Hanamura an even more interesting choice of a map. Let's see if XL6 can weather the storm of these multiple long-range DPS.
Yeah, Psycho comes rolling in on his Wrecking Ball and is ready to disrupt a lot of the setup that X69 are trying to really create. And here comes the crossfires on the left and the right. Again, Poe is going to be the first one to be taken out of this fight, and Psycho is just being a complete nuisance on the point. He is just rolling his way around as that Wrecking Ball, and there hasn't been really much of a response here from X69 because of this 4 DPS lineup and just how far away they are from a lot of the action. Moe does get taken down, but the fight has already been won, and Sandfraggers are going to very quickly and efficiently take this first point.
Absolutely, and this might be the change they've been looking for here. They're going to come into the second point with a lot of ultimates very quickly to be coming online. On the part of X6 Gaming, they've had to make some compositional switches. They look like they're going over to the dive because they just can't answer this composition with the Goats comp. An early kill onto Xeno should put a snuff on this offense.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily have the ultimates immediately ready for that that snowball that we sometimes see out of the Hanamura, but we do have the X-ray vision, the vision, so that they can see where this defense is being set up. They can even see what kind of composition has been adjusted to. Here comes the landmines to really disrupt this defense, as Ronnie is in a really awkward position, just trapped in that corner. A great Dragon Strike comes through to split apart some of the defense, force them into an awkward situation, and now they are on the point. They've already picked up that first tick, as Bob is going to be let loose onto the point. And here comes the sound barrier to try and help out on the defense, but already Ike is just wrecking havoc on the Sandfraggers DPS.
Absolutely, Ike is just going crazy on the Sandfraggers in the background, even while this fight is going on in the point, and ultimately they just don't have the men left to keep pushing through. The early kill onto Xeno really helping out as well. They did end up using the res onto it, but it meant that there was a time for a 5v6 fight, and it gave Ike the space to push in. But we are going to see compositional changes from both these teams now. It looks like we are going back to Goats. Zen Goats, it will be mirrored now, late swap by Poe as we get this fight underway.
Yeah, and now that they've realized that the changes have been made to deal with what they were bringing to the table, they are going to be with the mirror compositions, but they're having a bit of a trouble trying to get themselves onto the point. It just seems like when it comes to straight up Goats v Goats, X69 just have that edge in the competition.
Absolutely, and you do have to an extent, wonder about trying to move back to this Goats, knowing that in these Goats v Goats matchups, they really have been coming off second best against X69. So I wonder here if we're going to see some changes, but it looks like they are coming back for another run with this Goats on Goats action.
Yeah, trying to give it another crack as they are making the way towards the higher ground, but already X69 is there and waiting for them. And it could be a bit of a struggle to get their way through, as Ronnie is going to be pushing through from the backside as a good shatter onto so many of the members, as they manage to take out room before the rest of the fight can really kick off. And with that Brigitte down, a lot of that composition starts to fall apart a little bit, and that is going to force a lot of the members of Sandfraggers to be a little bit more passive as they try and just eke their way towards the point. But without the Brigitte, it could be a bit of a risk, as here comes the armor up as they do come charging through, but the Transcendence and also Transcendence on both sides of the Graviton is used, and here comes an explosion on one of the sides. I'm trying to gather which one is from where. There's effects everywhere. As the explosion comes down, takes down Root again. He just came back. But the point is being captured for a little bit. They almost got to that second tick, but in the end, the fight is going to go over to X69.
Absolutely, and a lot of ultimates being invested there without much to say from it. They did get a tiny bit of extra percentage, but not getting that second tick means that they're basically back to where they were. Only really bought themselves a bit of extra breathing room if this is all they get, and that is definitely not what you're looking for at this stage in the match. Looks like we will be going into a pause here. And unfortunately, the alt economy at this stage very heavily in favor of X69 Gaming. They fund rate very close to another Earth Shatter, whereas Xeno, having just used his, is still a very long way to go from it. We're not going to see much in the way of big impactful ultimates here from the Sandfraggers for a while, and that's really going to be an opportunity for X69 to just trade ultimates with them, try and win these fights efficiently, and maintain their ultimate advantage going forwards. We have 3.5 minutes left on the clock, so there's still plenty of time to crack open this defense, but as long as they remain disciplined with their ultimates and don't give up fights too... Don't allow the fights to be too expensive ultimate-wise, they should be able to stay ahead here, because as you mentioned before, this second point is definitely a tough nut to crack. Yeah,
and essentially as long as X69 are kind of like training equally in these fights, if it's just a 1-for-1, if it's a 2-for-2, regardless of how the ultimates are coming out, that is usually always working out for the defense because of the distance between spawns. So it is going to be a bit of a rough ride for the Sandfraggers to come through. The only, I guess, light that they have coming soon is that they have a rally upcoming in the near future, I guess, which they could potentially use to kind of feed the rest of the team. But as you mentioned, Fundray with that shatter coming up in not too long could be another one of those situations where they just completely shut out this offense. And with 3.5 minutes left, I mean, they started with this B push with about 7 minutes, and they're already below half of that, and that's just one of the things about Hanamura. It could be such an exercise in frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is Fundray has been so deadly with these Earth Shatters as well. He has been getting around Xeno or getting assistance from his team to ensure that Xeno is stunned or otherwise not able to block these Shatters. And he's been getting huge knockdowns here. So you've really got to be frightened about the fact that he is going to have this up for the next fight, because every time Fundray has shattered here on Hanamura, it has been a fight that has been won.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's got to play into the mentality for Xeno. I mean, you're the vanguard. You're the one who's supposed to have the shield up to protect them from that kind of play, but it just keeps on getting a little bit outplayed by their opponents, and it starts to play into mentality. It's like, do I want to try and drop this to put out a fire strike or throw out a hammer swing here and there, knowing that there's potentially a shatter coming at the end of it. So it can start to force Xeno to be a little bit more defensive. We need to see him still try and keep up a lot of that strong Reinhardt play, but has to be a little bit more proactive about his shielding, especially when that shatter is an opportunity.
Absolutely, but it can be so hard. With so much CC in the game at the moment, it is so easy to just get booped slightly out of position, and with how well X69 has been coordinating, they just set up these plays where they will just knock him aside to be able to get the big shatter onto the team. So here we go, they're coming in now again for another attack.
Yeah, they are forcing the defense down onto the point. It's just going to be slugging out straight ahead on each other. And again, the shatter comes out, knocks two to the ground as Xeno. But Funray does manage to get taken down as well, so it's just trading 1-for-1. They do manage to take down Ike, but here comes the Transcendence for the defense to keep the team alive. Try and stall out for as long as possible until the reinforcements can come through. Here comes the armor up as well, and here comes the Fundray to start slapping his way through. And throughout all of this, there hasn't been much progress made on the point. As here comes the contested explosions going to be coming through left and right. No one managed to get taken down by those, but throughout all this, X69 are just winning the fight straight up.
Absolutely, and in the end, they are just going to frag out in these long drawn-out fights. And the bad news there is that throughout all of this, we have seen, because Xeno is getting bullied so heavily, Fundray is almost caught up to him on Earth Shatter progress, despite the fact that a Shatter was used in that fight. Part of that, of course, being the fact that Fundray can come straight back into the Fawn and start swinging for the cleanup. But Lemons, for me, has the grab available. This might be the opportunity if they're able to get a quick grab in before Stolen Picnic can build up that sound barrier, but they need to move quickly and they need to execute.
Yeah, and they need to be worried that it doesn't get eaten up by it. The David, here it comes out, but they haven't really been able to get too much out of it just yet. The Transcendence comes through for the offense. They take down Randy, a big kill to start off this fight. But they have to keep it diligent as Stolen Picnic gets taken down, so that is going to be the same barrier not available. Here comes the Shatter and the Transcendence to be helped out for the side of the X69. Shadow did go down onto Xeno, but he's still alive and in the fight, but does finally get taken down by Noosh as the Diva is able to just shove their way straight through. But throughout all of this, the point is still being held. They did actually manage to get another tick onto the point, which is going to help them out in the long run, but the fight does eventually go to the side of X69, and then just over a minute left on the timer.
Absolutely. So a nice execution. They did work out their win condition there. They went for the early kill. Unfortunately, not able to bring enough damage to bear into that grab to actually get the follow through. And sure enough, in the late stages of that fight, we see Fundray once again getting a shatter onto Xeno. We're heading into what is quite possibly the last fight here now, and we need to see something more out of the Sandfraggers.
Yeah, here comes the armor up, but Xeno is going to be taken down first. As you mentioned, he's being bullied so hard throughout this entire round. Fundray just not giving him any space as Fundray is just having a field day. A little bit of capture on the point as Mo is just trying to get anything for the team. He's maybe got like a couple of percent here or there, but it's not going to be enough. The fight very cleanly going over to X69, but because of how quickly that was over, that might give even the slightest of opportunities for the Sandfraggers to make their way back towards the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually surprised after Xeno went down so quickly, we didn't just see a swift reset from the team, but they are still going to have time to get in. Looks like they do have to give up going on the high ground, so they're just going to push straight onto the point here. But look at all the ultimates that X69 have to win this one. This is going to be a huge hurdle to climb.
Oh, here comes the Graviton, a good Transcendence to help out. The shield does go up and keeps the team alive. Run is actually going to be the first one to go down. The Sound Barrier are just a little bit too late, but the fight is going to continue. Xeno manages to take down Fundray as well, so really good start to fight. That is going to be the Earthshatter out of the fight, and this gives the opportunity over to the Sandfraggers to pick up a lot of kills, and it does force everyone off the point and gives them more time to accrue a lot of that percentage. They're burping them off. They get a little bit here and there, and now with this trickling defense, it might be the opportunity that Sandfraggers need. They aren't going to be able to take down Fundray. They do shut him down, and they finally, with overtime still ticking, they manage to complete the map.
Absolutely, and a huge turnaround there as Sandfraggers managed to spin this one around, get the kills they need, and actually manage to weather the storm despite the ultimate disadvantage. They've managed to do a Herculean task and absolutely take that one over. Unfortunately for them, it was an overtime cap, which means that they are looking at being in a somewhat precarious position, given how momentum-based this map can be, given how dangerous the snowball from first point can be. They absolutely need to nail this defense because they need to bleed as much time off the clock at A as they possibly can and try and give them a real fighting chance to be able to hold off this defense at B.
Yeah, absolutely. First order of business is to try and win the map, and if they're unable to do that, try and just at least get the draw and force it into a tiebreaker, because as you mentioned, this map can be a bit of a snowball affair. We'll have to see how the defense holds up, because the defense of X69 for the longest time looked like it was going to be able to hold on for the full 7 minutes, but now I have to see whether or not the Sandfraggers are going to be able to pull up a similar effort. They are going to be bringing the Reaper for themselves. Whereas on the offense, we'll just have to wait and see what they bring to the party.
Absolutely, I think we are going to see a bit of scouting from Fundray on the Sombra here, but I dare say Stolen Picnic's probably not going to be coming out on that Tourbillon. We did see a bit of Tourbillon yesterday, but mostly from teams that were feeling really confident. Sure enough, Stolen Picnic is going to go over to the Lucio here. Fundray with a bit of the scouting. Let's see what they can see. They've spotted the Reaper. They know what the comp's going to be, and we'll see if that involves any adjustments here.
It looks like they're just going to go back to the good old traditional GOATs, understanding that when it comes to this style, they feel very confident in their superior ability, and they're just going to run straight through this gate, trying to make their way towards this point. But the Sandfraggers have been rather aggressive with their positioning, forcing them back away, as Lemons for me does have to raise his way back out of danger, manages to get him back behind his front line, and now he's back. Both teams are just going to be sitting back, trying to heal themselves up, ready for the next skirmish.
Absolutely, and they're just going to be jockeying for position here on the gate. They're looking to wear down the other Reinhardt shield, try and create an opening, and try and get the opening fight. Early stun there by Runny onto Lemons for me. Could have been it, but Fundray actually the first one to drop there.
Yeah, nicely done there from Lemons for me, following up with a lot of the damage, and that's the thing with this Reaper in this kind of composition. We saw it a little bit yesterday to some, I guess, mediocre success, but this is a really good utilization of it here from the Sandfraggers, trying to just bust down that front line, because we've seen so often, just if you try and play the same composition, it's just a very steady grind, and once that first one goes down, a lot of the composition kind of just collapses, and with Lemons for me on that Reaper, will have the damage to punch through a lot of what they're bringing, as Earthshatter gets thrown right into the shield, as Fundray is able to just completely walk through this composition, as it's looking like X69 are in a pretty good position. Here comes the death whistle. It gets completely denied by the defense matrix, and that is going to be the fight completely cleaned up by X69.
Absolutely, and really, once again, they managed to accidentally overlap these support ultimates And it just doesn't seem to matter because they're just able to so decisively clean up these fights. And now we are going to have this the snowball. It's not the biggest snowball we've ever seen, but Netherlands for me still swapping over onto the Bastion. They're worried about a snowball, and as a result, they're going to be setting up a very strong anti-goats comp here just to try and hold off this first push.
Yeah, absolutely. They are spread out around the point, trying to create a lot of different crossfires and make it as hard as possible for the goats composition to just get set up. They are kind of holding position here in that corridor as they get everything all set up and ready to go. They make their way towards the point, try and force away some of those members. A good sleep into one of the members, as Poe is going to be the first one to drop, and that should force the retreat from X69, but they're in a bit of a precarious situation. They actually managed to take down Moe, and Rune is the next one to go down. A little bit over aggressive there from the side of Sandfraggers, gave the opportunity over to X69 to essentially regress onto the point, and now it's going to be a very precarious situation for the side of the Sandfraggers. They're trying to make their way towards the point, stall out the point just a little bit more, but with how things are going, it's looking very good for X69. The barrage comes through, but doesn't really get too much.
I guess drop can't quite get onto the point.
And that's just going to be a very quick and clean point B capture there for X69, and with how much time they have, they can secure this map and series win here on this next push.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not where you want to be whatsoever. Sandfraggers is now forced to try and defend A for over 4 minutes, more time than they had just, well, less than a couple of minutes ago when they first started this defense. To try and hold off X69 Gaming for the privilege of going to a tiebreaker map to try and stay in this series. So their backs are absolutely up against the wall here. A lot of pressure on their shoulders, but at least they do have the silver lining of going down here is not elimination from the tournament. They will have an opportunity to claw their way back to the grand finals through the loser bracket, but that does mean playing an extra game today, and ultimately, at best case scenario, they have to come back and play once again against X69 Gaming. So that is not where they want to be whatsoever.
It is an unenviable task for the side of the Sandfraggers, and they're going to be bringing out essentially all or nothing defense with the Bastion and the Orisa and even the Mei to try and split apart this offense. We are going to see the same setup here from the side of X69 with Fundray. Going to be doing the scouting here on the Sombra to make sure that they know exactly what they want to be coming to the party with.
Look at this defensive composition though. They're running Mei and Bastion hiding behind the Orisa shield. They're going for the desperate cheesy plays here. They don't have many tools available, and this is going to see some compositional switches coming through as it gets scouted. Fundray going over onto the Wrecking Ball. Are we going to be seeing any other swaps, or are they just going to be running the Wrecking Ball goats?
We'll just have to wait and see. They do switch it back over because essentially with this defense, it is all or nothing. You recognize that you have to make this work or else you are just done. You don't have much room for mistakes as they just run all the way onto the point, and it has to force a reaction out of the defense. They have to get on there to stall it out, but they just don't. They just
get on the point.
They don't get on the point. They just let X9 walk onto it and just take the win. I mean, surely they realize that they only needed a tick, right?
I imagine, like, they did dive for the point there at the end, but not able to get through. I think there was a witch shot from the Brigida, or perhaps a Lucio boot, just to deny that point presence that was ever so crucial. Some good plays there from X69 to just, well, go around this defense and make sure that it can't get where it needs to be able to stop them. So, very nice play played for X69 Gaming. They will go through to our grand final, and Sandfraggers will have their opportunity to claw their way back up, as they will be going down to the losers bracket now to basically take on the losers bracket grand finalist.
Yeah, that will be they will verse the winner of either Paradigm Shift or Bad to the Bone, which should be a bit of an interesting matchup. I mean, we'll be bringing you that in about an hour's time, but yeah, I mean, the Sandfraggers, they tried some interesting things to deal with what X9 Gaming have been bringing to the table, but X69, they have just looked just so consistent with what they've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the silver lining for the Sandfraggers is the both of these teams that they could potentially be going up against, they have actually already eliminated in these playoffs. They sent Paradigm Shift down to the losers bracket. They sent Bad to the Bone down to the losers bracket in a 3-0. So both of those teams they know they can beat as long as they can gather themselves and not be too affected by this loss here. So they are looking like a good position to come back and make it into these grand finals. But that said, perhaps the pounding they've just taken from X69 Gaming may take its toll on them, and certainly they can't be looking forwards to a rematch against them in the finals either, so we'll have to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, but they do have a bit of time to wait. As I mentioned, it will be at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Time that match will be coming up, so they can kind of step away for a little bit, regather their thoughts, regather their composure, and get ready for their next match. So, I mean, we will be back at that time. We will be going to a break, but don't go too far. I mean, for everyone watching, get a drink, stretch your legs, make sure you're all ready for the next series, because when we come back, it will be Sandfraggers versus the winner of either Paradigm Shift or Bad to the Bone. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.